Why is nobody talking about XDC trade finance going live next month? XDC is about to go crazy this year. And we had another listener, Henry, down here. He said, highly consider XDC's integration into trade finance and supply chain management. This will be huge globally. And Quincy, you're the perfect person to address that. So are our listeners correct? Is this a massive development for the XDC network?
Hey, everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and we'll listen to Quincy's answer. But let's check in on XDC price movement. In a sea of red today, we're looking at the top 50 by market cap. XDC is over 10%, with an impressive 19% on the 7-day, 120% on the 30-day, and up 179% year to date. Yes, I've been bullish on XDC for years, with hosting the co-founder Atul more than 2 years ago. I love this hybrid platform, and it does indeed settle atomically. I had somebody in the space say that it didn't settle, that it needed XRP to settle. No, it does not. It settles for a fraction of a penny, and it has decent transaction throughput as well. XDC previously carved out a niche in the trade finance, but recently has emerged as a driving force behind Dubai's Web3 revolution. To understand their blockchain moves, you need to focus in on Sunil Senapati. He is making a lot of noise in the space. His contribution here is in the Citibank 162-page report back in March. This report, which was titled Money, Tokens, and Games, was for the Citi institutional investors. Sunil was also in Australia's blockchain event, and that video, which I shared with my Patreons, has gone way under the radar with only 8 views. I've been swing trading XDC for those couple of years since I was introduced to the project, but since they became a token that's handled by SBI VC Trade, I really got serious on hodling them. Tadashi Yoshida was really excited at the WebEx Asia, which was last week, when he had more than 80 people visit the booth in one day. So Japan is just starting to learn about this tech stack. I'm going to be attending the inaugural XDC Conference and Developer Summit in Austin, Texas on August 25th and 26th. I hope that some of you watching this video will come, and that'd be just great to meet you in person. Now let's hear Quincy's answer to that question.
Yeah, so you're seeing a lot of, so this is actually the funniest thing. There's a lot of engagement on XDC all the time. It's just in Singapore, India, Korea. It's not quite in the Western world. Oh, that's the thing. It actually, when it was created by Zinfin, it was originated in Singapore. So there's actually a lot of activity going on XDC all the time. You just don't see it in you don't see it in the American news because a lot of that activity is being sourced overseas. Now, I think you're seeing a lot more activity start growing in Europe, and that's one of the biggest places of growth right now for XDC is being able to tokenize documents and being able to and you're actually starting to see Euro stablecoins too pop up on XDC as well. So you're starting to see it branch out from those Asian nations and more into these European nations and eventually into these United States, into the United States. But the biggest thing is there's a lot of advancements happening in a lot of different ways, and a lot of these businesses are just running their business. So you'll have Zinfin, Trade Trust, you'll have Trade Finex. You'll have all these different businesses that are doing different things, and they're just utilizing the technology to allow for the business to be a bit more efficient. But as they grow their business, they also grow the adoption of the technology because their business partners adopt the technology. As their business partners adopt the technology, they start improving their business. So they end up getting a higher level of growth. As they get a higher level of growth, other businesses will start adopting the technology so they can also replicate that growth. You're seeing a lot of, like I said, you're seeing a lot of growth all over the world with XDC. You just don't quite see it here because it wasn't necessarily originated here. Europe seems to be the big spot right now. Like I said, right for the longest bit, it seemed to be Singapore, but right now Europe is the biggest spot. There's the Euro stable coins that are popping up, which is allowing for a ton of different applications to be built around euros. Soon you'll start seeing more US stable coins, whether it's USD, USDT, USDC, whatever it may be. But Europe is and mostly because Europe seems to have a bit more of regulatory clarity around it. There's been a lot of different legislation around tokenizing documents, tokenizing identities, and stablecoins, and so that's really where a lot of the technological and total adoption is happening currently. The amount of adoption isn't really about the speed of which people adopt the technology, but the speed, it's almost like the political thing again. It's the speed of which there's some sort of level of clarity around that technology in which people are going to engage with. In Singapore, they're very lax around the means of adopting these technologies. So a lot of these new businesses can very easily jump into XDC and start building new things. Europe is now becoming a lot more defined in their regulation and their rules around these technologies. So now you're seeing that as well. The United States is lagging behind, so you end up seeing the United States lag behind a little bit as well. So
but I think the biggest thing that's going to determine the maximum saturation needed for the total amount of growth on any of these networks is a political one. And it's mostly just around certain regulations, how people engage with their trade partners, what it means to engage on an international scale, and what it means to potentially violate any sort of rules on that international scale. There's a lot of ways to go about that. But yeah, from a technical standpoint, it's not technically challenging. If everyone stood, like I said, if everyone got together and held hands and all said we're all going to do this, they could. But at the same time, if they all came together and held hands and said we're all going to use AWS, they could too. So the means of how they go about instituting these technologies is the hard part, not the technologies itself.
I have to admit, I'm very excited to see what BITSTAMP is going to announce. They say they're taking XRP to the next level. It should be announced today. Since the company Ripple took a stake in BITSTAMP, I think a lot of people are speculating many different ways of what's going on. Here's my guess. They already have the earn to lend with XRP, but they don't have the staking option with XRP. My guess is going to be that XRP's added to the crypto staking. Let's see if I'm right.
Most of us in the industry acknowledge that we know there are others coming. The wave of the failures of the service providers in this industry is not over yet in the United States. So not all of what the United States government did was undeserved. A big, huge chunk of it was. And I was just having a debate with somebody, very early Bitcoiner recently, on whether 90% of the industry needs to just blow up and go away, or 99% of the industry needs to just blow up and go away. I've been on the record for years, in fact, started writing about this back in 2018, that the ETF is a double-edged sword for Bitcoin. Why? It certainly brings in more liquidity, but on the flip side, the Wall Street leverage games are going to be a lot easier to play. And now we come back to what I just described, where it was startups that were blowing themselves up on leverage games. And unfortunately, now we're actually going to see the very companies that I would argue should not be playing these leverage games with an asset of finite quantity, because there will never be a lender of last resort. And because of what I described with so few Bitcoin actually changing hands, there won't ever be a clearinghouse of meaningful size as well. So what does that mean? It means that no institution had better get more than one-to-one leveraged ever. The moment they become more than one-to-one leveraged, then it's just a matter of time before the market sniffs that out and the institution fails in the so-called run on the bank. No one's ever making more Bitcoin. So unfortunately, I think the US still doesn't have it right, that it doesn't quite understand it's dealing with a very different animal. And to use Trace Mayer's point, he called Bitcoin the apex predator of finance. Trace Mayer is one of the original Bitcoiners who started buying Bitcoin at 25 cents. And I think he's right that you don't mess around. You don't play leverage-based financialization games with Bitcoin. And unfortunately, we're now looking at some very large institutions coming in to do just that.
Yes, that was Caitlin Long of Custodia Bank. She has a lot of guts. She's fighting the Fed right now, and she's an excellent critical thinker. So it'll be very, I think, telling to see how BlackRock handles the ETF, as well as all the other big players that are getting in the space. I happen to think she's got a really valid point here. All right, I will let David take you out. This is in regards to a question that I've been getting continuously as to what exactly it was that David wrote on my autograph board when I interviewed him in Tokyo last week. So until next time, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye. The night before I left for the UK to celebrate the MVP launch for the BPM wallet, I was invited to a pre-WebEx kickoff in Tokyo, where David Schwartz generously shared his time to answer a few questions. For those of you who watched the video and left many comments about how I appeared to be so nervous, yes, I could barely get my words out with the first two questions. I remember standing next to David and saying out loud, wow, we're so close. I adjusted his shirt and the phone rang. And David said, hang on, let's wait for the phone. And I mumbled, oh my gosh, you're such a pro. And he said, well, I've done a few of these. With the help of Moonchaser, who did my makeup and operated the camera, and Minus handling the lighting, I made it through thanks to their help. A highlight for me was I had brought a couple of kishiki boards. These are autograph boards widely used in Japan for famous individuals to write a personal message with a signature and a date. Mine is a treasure, as you can imagine, and David wrote, thanks for supporting our community and giving me the opportunity to share my favorite pirate joke. David Schwartz, Joel Katz, July 27th, 2023.